What's going on, gamers? So we got a salt farming video, potentially, I would say, but more about how there's this big debate that keeps going back and forth between PC gamers and PlayStation gamers of whether Sony is abandoning PC or not. And then I think there's some misunderstandings here that, of course, I want to clear up as well. Um, MBG post something interesting because of what I saw earlier, and I understand why he's posting it. And I seen some other posts too about yesterday showing that Sony is removing PC aspects from its database, cross-buy and all that, right? So you got that going on, and then you got them abandoning PC. Now, fully abandoning is not something I ever said because they got games like Kena, Marvel coming. It's more about the 10 post single player games. Like, you're not getting those. They'll still have those side projects. That's why that Nix's update had that, which, we'll get to things here in a second. MBG says, I'm seeing a lot of people pushing back against or straight up denying the rumor that Sony is moving away from PC. Dude, they updated the stuff on their database, basically showing you that cross-buy icon, that's gone. We've already explained how they're pushing towards a PlayStation-only ecosystem. This could easily be seen. For people that are always new to videos, because not everybody watches every video, you always got new people come to your video. I'll tell you what I told you real quick about. If you're trying to push and promote PSSR 2, if you're going to say that games like Wolverine and other games are only on PlayStation, because they're putting that up now in front of you, this is not a rumor, it's something that they're doing, then it's pretty obvious that Sony is going for a more Nintendo approach and they're trying to strengthen their ecosystem for an exclusive only. It's pretty obvious that you do not want PS6 to be in a PS3 situation at the start. 60% of PlayStation's revenue, posted that yesterday, comes, or 60% of Sony's revenue comes from PlayStation. So if 60% of Sony's revenue comes from PlayStation, they're removing the cross-buy aspects for PC, they're going the exclusive route, they're trying to promote PSSR 2, why would they want to weaken the PS6 launch? It has to succeed. That's 60% of their company now. You just need to think logically whether you want to play that war or not. This is not about that. This is about understanding the most intelligent, intellectual aspect of this. It's like, dude, it has to be that way. And Steam only gave you a 1.5% benefit at the highest peak. That's because of Helldivers 2, and that's multiplayer. So Sony's like, but you're pirating my single player games. You have to be online for multiplayer. No. If you're arguing against it, I don't know what to tell you, because it's like, that makes sense. Then he says, for those who are unaware, the reports indicate Sony no longer plans to release their internally developed single player games. That's what we're talking about. Ghost of Yotei, Soros, Wolverine. That's what I'm saying. Intergalactic, the next Uncharted, Venom, Spider-Man 3. You know what I mean? It's not happening on PC, but instead keep them fully exclusive to their console. You have to have an identity. We talked about identity before. He says, however, multiplayer live service games, which makes sense because you want your communities to be as alive as possible online. Marathon, Horizon Hunters Gathering, and second-party exclusives Death Stranding and Kena are still planned to release on PC. That's why Nix's still has that update, which we're going to look at here in a second on their portfolio. Got to update it. Also, keep in mind there are multiple credible insiders reporting this. They are sourced, not just made up by random users. So when you see Nix's software's description on PlayStation's website stating they still do PC ports, that's why. He's correct. Vulcan says Sony is going to have a really hard time selling their future multiplayer games on PC. Dude, if they made Helldivers 3, PC gamers don't give a damn about a game they did not want to support on PC. They ignored it. It didn't sell. You put Helldivers 3 there, they're getting right on that day one because that's the game they're interested in. They're more about what they're interested in more than anything. They're not going to just support anything. They have a different demographic than an average console gamer. Look at the Steam games that are always up there, the same old games. Or some games like Ark Raiders or something like Crimson Desert. Huge open world, modifiable. You see what I mean? It's what they're interested in. Helldivers 3 is something that interests a PC gamer. You can bring it later or not. They're still going to play it. It doesn't matter. Because there, we desperately need you to buy our multiplayer games, but you are never getting our single player games. Narrative is not going to work. Yes, it is, because they don't care. It's literally about whether they want to play the game or not. If they're not interested in those single player games, they don't care because they weren't going to play them anyways, or they were just going to probably pirate them to see how it was. But for multiplayer games, you can't do that. And PC gamers love online games. So that's why World of Warcraft was the biggest game on there for a while, and Counter-Strike. It's like, and they like their single player mod games too. So it's like, no. That's not necessarily the case here. Now, what was MBG talking about? Well, let me give you guys an example. I got this guy's post right here. He says, bombshell, Sony is leaning harder towards PC. That's a dishonest statement. It's like, you're a liar. How are they leaning harder when they're going to be moving back their biggest games? No, they're not. Now the Japanese giant has decided to include PC ports in the description of its studios. And there's other posts like this too. So this is what I mean by the Nix's update right here. It says Netherlands-based studio with engineering teams specialized in high-quality PC ports and art and design teams co-developing games with PlayStation studios worldwide. He thinks that means Sony's leading harder. No, what this means is they're going to be working on ports like Kina and stuff like that. So that is there, yeah. Marvel is going to have to be ported. So them leaning harder, where does it say that at? It says high quality PC ports. They've been doing that. Then he says, this is shameful. A bunch of media outlets trying to spread misinformation. When that was the post we were talking about yesterday. It's not though. And then he says, what's the problem with releasing games on PC? The console still exists and it's a very good value compared to an equivalent PC. You buy what your money can afford and everyone is happy. Right? Fake news, this page only posts lies. What's the lie? It's right there. I know it hurts. I know you want to fool yourself, but it's written right there, he's saying. It's like, dude, you said they're leaning harder towards PC. If they're pulling back all their hugest games, no. Because you only get in like side second party ports and online games. Because Marvel is going to be an online fighting game. Fighting games work very well in the PC world now compared to like back then. So no. And he says it never said that they would abandon PC, but rather that single player games will no longer come out for PC, with PC games being those as a service, like for example Helldivers or Marathon. There are other games as a service in production like that. Like I said, Horizon is one of them. It's no big deal to give a nod to PC. And he's just basically sitting there being, you know, what he's being. Obviously, he likes PC. This is a noob channel. So this is what MBG was talking about, right? Let's go back over there. So this is why he said, I'm seeing a lot of people pushing back against or straight up denying the rumor that Sony's moving away from PC with that Nix's post. So that's starting up a new war, I guess, which is kind of funny. He says that makes no sense though. Nixis has never ported a multiplayer game before, and they don't need to since it will be released everywhere by the original studio. The same goes for second-party games, except for Death Stranding 2, where they joined Kojima Productions for some reason. That's why I said, who's going to do Kina? And other side PlayStation projects that Sony plans on having. And if they do, you're going to see me get butthurt about it. And then MBG posted something else saying, some people are going to be very, very hurt if this rumor does turn out to be true. Orlando says, which side will be hurt though? Because it looks like only PlayStation fans will be if Sony keeps porting to PC. I think some unrealistically expect PlayStation to announce it explicitly to believe it. Well, Hiroki Totoki basically said he wants PlayStation to be the best place to play. And for third-party publishers. He said that yesterday, so that means we want you to focus on PlayStation. Like I said, does it make sense to say that you're going to be still porting a PC and weaken the launch of PS6, which is going to be probably the most expensive PlayStation console ever? That logically doesn't make sense to me. PSSR 2 push to PSSR 3, it doesn't make sense to me. You're trying to push that PlayStation ecosystem. So, and then release your handheld. So, the ones who are going to continue to be hurt and disappointed are you when you see more PlayStation games come into PC. There it is again. It's kind of more like catering to that other page we're seeing over here, doing kind of the same thing. They're kind of all going about it like that. You know, PC fans now, we get that going. Embarrassing because these same people say they don't like Sony games. Yeah, they do. It's true. They don't say that. And then they complain about Sony leaving PC. It's like, well, you didn't support them. They shared with you. You can't get mad at nobody that opened up their library to you for years and you didn't give them the results they wanted. How's it their fault? No, it's your fault. We said to support about Astrobot not selling what we wanted it to sell. You didn't support it enough. It's not somebody's fault because they put their games on your platform that you wanted to pirate them and do all this other stuff against them. The only ones who are going to be hurt by this decision is PlayStation enthusiasts. The reality is, with the consoles being more expensive than ever, the lack of support from PlayStation community buying PlayStation Studio games, you're going to see all of the PlayStation Studio struggle. If that happens, yeah. So, no more PlayStation games on Steam. It doesn't mean that. It means no more single-player games. We're going to be finding out when Soros launches anyways, and if Sony comes out and just shuts it all down, they kind of need to do that. The same can be said for the reverse, starting with you. I wouldn't be surprised if it's true. PC doesn't make sense for Sony unless it's going to be day and date, and they already proved that's not the direction they want to go. Yeah, that's a solid logical post. So I want you guys to let me know what you think about all this drama kind of kicking off. What do you think about what he said on his page? Sony leaning harder towards PC. I think that's a dishonest statement because it doesn't make any sense to me. Now, Nix is still being kept around because Sony's going to be still sharing second-party games. Makes sense. Death Stranding is not a PlayStation IP. They sold the rights to Kojima, so it makes sense that that game was going to be able to be ported. They worked on Spider-Man. Of course, Nix is dead. But Sony would still want them around to work on the other ports so they could free up their developers to not waste their time on that so that they can make games as much as possible and have the quality available as an exclusive across PS5, PS5 Pro, and PlayStation 6 and the PlayStation handheld. And that's the ecosystem I think Sony is wanting to push and trying to see if they can get as much sales as possible within that ecosystem. Because it doesn't make sense to say you need PC as much as possible for single-player games if you were 1.5% of the boost. And a chunk of that was off of Helldivers 2, which is a multiplayer game. You're not making any sense. Now, if you had 10%, 15%, yeah, it will hurt to lose that. But you ain't never got past the 2%, or you ain't never got to the 2% ratio percentage. So I was like, what are you talking about here? How is that going to affect them? No, it doesn't make any sense. So when we talk about math here, that doesn't add up. Guys, I'm just saying, think about it. So how would Sony be hurt, or, you know, a PlayStation gamer, if they really realized those facts and Sony left PC and PC gamers like, I'm not supporting you? It's like, you didn't anyways. So how am I affected or hurt? Right? You know me, I game on everything, but I'm just saying, like, it just doesn't make any sense to think that Sony will be threatened by pulling away from PC, because if a PC gamer wants to play a multiplayer game, they're gonna play it. They don't care. Even if you do have that grudge. Did you see Helldivers 2 tank down? I was like, no, guess what though? Because Helldivers 2 was amazing and they were all over it. So that's not a question. That's evidence right there. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you guys think. As usual, leave a comment down below. Later, y'all.